I've been singing in front of people since I've been 4 years old. And so I have always been sort of a ham and singing in front of a crowd and things like that. I think that's actually helped me as a teacher. I'm John Fisher, and I moved to Augusta in 1977. And because I love teaching medical students, and I happen to also love golf. And so I found the perfect match for my medical school faculty was right here at the Medical College of Georgia.
And you moved here with your wife when you were married?
Uh-huh.
Or? Okay.
My wife was pregnant with twin daughters.
Twins! Wow.
In the heat of the summer, poor thing.
So tell us about how Doc Fisher came about, Doc Fisher and the Undefeated Army.
The Undefeated Army is sort of a late addition. I was originally playing some with an Irish group that was at the Metro. It met on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock. And it was kind of a jam session with a lot of several guitarists, and Lily Morris, a fabulous violin player, and some other great singer guitarist, Gavin Winship. And so I sat in and they let me sing a couple of songs, and it was about 2 hours worth, and it became even more of a jam session. And after a while, since I wasn't, singing solo or singing and playing myself, I sort of said, I'd like to maybe find a place where I can sing a little bit more. And so my son, Brendan, had just turned 21. And I said, Brendan, you need to find me a place that has an open mic somewhere. And so after a week or two, he said, Dad, I got the perfect place for you. It's a place called the Fox's Lair. It's down below the street level. And they have an open mic on Tuesday nights. And so I started playing by myself Irish songs and, some folk songs and things like that. And so after a couple of weeks, there weren't very many people there. I think the people who were there, they enjoyed it. But I wasn't really fabulously talented or anything, so they weren't just coming in immediately. But anyway, a young man by the name of Chuck Holt, H-O-L-T, came in. I think he played at the Fox's Lair occasionally with another person, and he frequented the place. And one time he said, "Do you mind if I sit in with you?" I had no idea the guy plays like Eric Clapton. He's such a fabulous guitarist. And suddenly, Walter, I became pretty good because I had him covering up all my bad chords, bad notes and things like that. And he could just take it and run with it. So he would do some breaks and things like that. And I'd come back and sing the chorus and sing the verse and things like that. So gradually, the word started getting out, and some medical students from MCG, I was well known at MCG as a teacher of infectious disease, and so somehow some medical students came down when they didn't have that much studying to do on a Tuesday. And so it gradually snowballed until it was a regular thing. There were some MCG faculty people who came frequently. And then there was a young bass player who played the double bass, stand-up bass, Chris Folk, F-O-L-K. And he was really good. I mean, he was a good bass player. And he sort of had that slap that bass type technique. Mm-hmm. And he was such a ham himself that I think he actually added to all the fun. And so initially it was just the three of us. We didn't call ourselves anything. We just showed up on Tuesday night. And then it wasn't too long before I'm trying to think when Henry Wynn came in. But Henry has been doing it for maybe 10 or 15 years. You'd have to ask Henry. But
what year about right before Henry comes in would you say we're at?
we are in probably, let's see, I'm going to say it's in the late 90s when this happened. My son Brendan is 42.
Okay.
So it was probably late 90s or early 2000s when this all kind of began. And but at any rate, so Henry Wynn came in 10 or 15 years ago, and he's been essentially a regular. And so was Henry and Chuck and Chris Folk. And I mean, it was really fun. And we started getting, a pretty good crowd on Tuesday nights because there's not that much happening in Augusta on Tuesday nights. And so people started arriving, and it really kind of took off from there. And there have been, Chuck Holt got married and moved out of town, and so eventually we got some other guitar players in there. Keith Peterson is kind of a late arrival, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. My dates, the Tuesday nights all run together.
Yeah, I bet.
But Keith's another guy that plays like Eric Clapton.
Oh yeah.
He's fabulous. And so once again, all these guys enhance things by not making me have to do everything solo, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
I can strum and play and no chords, but it's just amateur hour if I'm by myself.
Can't relate. I'm also a solo artist on piano, so I get that. It helps when you have
the
full accompaniment.
I don't. If you're the solo artist, the pressure is on to have the audience enjoy it, and you feel that pressure. You want them to have fun, but it's work. It's too much like work.
You feel the dynamics.
You have to, and so these guys make me relax and sing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's kind of how it got started, but I'm probably getting senile. I'm not sure about the dates. Things like that.
No, Keith definitely has been on the scene less than the last decade, I would say, hanging around the Fox Lair and stuff. So, no,
he's terrific. Of course, Henry is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then Devrin Roof came in.
Devrin, yeah.
And Devrin is a virtuoso on the bass, and he first came in with a double bass. Mm-hmm. I think he has played with the symphony. I mean, this is a real gifted musician. Yeah. And he came in probably around the same time Henry did. And so he was the standard bass player. Mike Badamy came in before Keith Peterson. Mm-hmm. And Mike also is a fabulous guitarist. And so people have been in and out, and I can't remember exactly when they all came in, but Mike Badamy was with us for at least a couple of years.
Yeah, you've got some of the most talented strings playing with the Undefeated in this region.
Why did they want to come and play back up for me? I don't know.
Well, you're Doc Fisher, and you made something so organic, and here it is. How did you find balancing the Tuesday nights that became your nights? How did you find balancing that, especially when you were, prime at the university? Well,
it made for kind of a late night on Tuesday because even though it's 7:30 to 9, I would get there at 6:30, something like that.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't actually get to leave the place to putting my guitar away and all that. I wouldn't get home till 9:45 or 10. And, I eat after I get home. You can't, I'm sure Walter, you can't eat and then sing. It's just, It doesn't work.
No.
And so I'm getting to bed at, 10:30 or 10:45. And so Wednesday morning I'm kind of dragging a little bit.
Yeah.
But I got used to that, and I wasn't on call there were several faculty people, and a given month I might be the on-call person. but it really, you get occasional calls at night if you're an infectious disease faculty person, but it wasn't oppressive. It's never that hard. It was mostly getting home late on Tuesday nights. Well, St. Patrick's Day has always been chaotic and fun.
Okay.
Oh, and that's usually a 3-hour gig, so that's always been big. Sometimes the Tuesday nights there were just a skeleton crowd, not that many, and sometimes it's been just packed, and you'd have to tell me why it's packed.
One of the highlights in this city. I mean, people come from Aiken and even Columbia sometimes on Tuesday just to come.
They're sick. They're
see
sick,
it.
Walter.
Well, they're there to get cured by you. You're the doc. So with the music from Doc Fisher, I know a lot of it has been folk and traditional Irish, but has any of it ever been original or
No.
off the cuff?
No, I steal liberally from anybody. If I hear a song that's really good or really funny,
Yeah.
I don't pay ASCAP fees, but I'm going to
venue
use
does, I
it.
assure
So
you that.
far, and it's not really for profit down there. It's for tips. So I
Right.
don't think. I guess they could probably legally.
They can. They have the licensing, I promise.
Yeah, but they haven't bothered me in the entire time.
Right. So in balancing, your alternative professional career with your music career, what's some advice that you would give to, other young professionals or adults that?
Well, I would say first, find something that you love to do for your main occupation. And if you find that thing, it's not work. You'll never work a day in your life if you find that thing that you love to do. So I've never once wavered from loving teaching medical students, seeing patients, trying to help people get over infections or whatever health problems they have. So I've always considered myself first a physician, and even though the hours in my training were pretty rough, this is what I signed up for, and I would do it all over again. This is what I think what the good Lord wanted me to be doing. It's dangerous to take on an occupation that you don't like. And then the second thing is find something else that you love to do that gives you your mind a break from your regular job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and they're your best teachers, and I think the students appreciate that. They want to go to a lecture that's kind of fun and interesting.
Right.
Not all jokes or anything like that, but enough sense of humor, passion.
Yeah.
And so find those kind of things, the hobbies, extracurricular things that you love to do, and do those. And the other thing for me is golf. I love to play golf. All my kids play golf, and it's such a pleasure to play golf with my kids and also my friends. And so that gives me, and golf's so darn hard. When COVID came around, I was already semi-retired. So right now I get a half a salary for teaching, giving lectures and teaching students physical diagnosis and talking about patients in group discussions. That's essentially what I do, and I also spend a lot of time. I still love to write, and I'm still writing a lot of things. And so COVID didn't really affect me, although I had COVID.
Right.
I wasn't terribly sick. I was sort of out for 10
you.
days, and I was never terribly ill. So it didn't affect me or any of my loved ones, thank goodness.
Yeah.
My dad was in the Army and stationed in Dayton, Ohio, at what was then called Wright Field. It's now Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. He was in the Army Air Corps, an enlisted man, not a pilot or anything like that. But anyway, he was stationed there, and his family was from Cincinnati, which is about 50 miles away. And so my mother and I lived with my grandparents in Cincinnati. And my mother also loved to sing. Her favorite group of songs were like from the 40s, you know,
Okay.
like Frank Sinatra, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And Tommy Dorsey and Glenn Miller. That was her era. And so, you know, I would help her. I'd dry the dishes, and she would taught me all these songs. And so I began to love singing. And there was just my mother and I for 6 years. My brother wasn't born for 6 years, and my sister for 9. So
Right.
it was my mom and me. And my mother, she was such a good soul. But she and I had a lot of fun together singing, and she was really a good stay-at-home mom, if you know what I mean. So I think I had more of a normal upbringing, and you know, nowadays it's daycare, and sometimes the kids are not, you know, they don't spend as much time with their parents. I had the luxury of having my mother there, so I think you get that positive reinforcement. And I mean, she'd crack the whip if I misbehaved. But anyway, so I love singing. So we lived next door to some of my relatives. My grandmother's sister, they had a house right next door in Cincinnati. And they, at parties, that family would say, "Johnny, sing us a song." And so I would sing a song for them. I remember that one of the songs I started singing was "Look for the Silver Lining." I don't know if you've ever heard that song.
No,
You
sing
got
us
to
a
pull
verse.
that up.
Sing us a verse of it, can you?
This isn't. Look for the silver lining whenever clouds appear in the sky. Something like that. Hey, that's
Okay.
so all the old folks loved this 4-year-old and 5-year-old boy singing songs like that, because those were some of the popular songs
Those
of
were
that
theirs, yeah.
era. Anyway, so in grade school, I always loved the music class that we had. You know, I had the nuns for 12 years, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. The good sisters. Talk
Yeah.
about cracking the whip. They were, you know, they were very good, devoted women who made nothing.
Yeah.
And taught these kids. I guess they were doing it for the good Lord. And they probably loved what they did. So anyway, during music we would sing, and I taught myself how to play the ukulele
Okay.
in about the 7th grade. And the 4 strings on a ukulele are, as you know, are like the 4 lower strings on a guitar. And so you can transition pretty easily from a uke to a guitar. And so I taught myself a lot of songs on the ukulele. And then my grandmother was going to buy me a trombone because she knew how much I loved music. And my mother begged her. She said, "Don't buy him a trombone. buy him a guitar." So
Right.
my grandmother bought me, that's my dad's mom, the one that was in Cincinnati. She
Okay.
bought me my first Sears Harmony guitar.
Right.
You remember that brand?
Yeah. Yeah. Sears. Wow.
In high school, I would sing at pep rallies, and big in those days were the Kingston Trio. And so I would sing a lot of Kingston Trio songs, learned a lot of them, had all their albums and things like that. And I don't know if you've ever heard the real Kingston Trio. They were really quite talented, and they were at the top of the pop charts when I was in my teenage years. And they were still popular when I was at Notre Dame. And went to see a couple of their concerts, and so I was big into them. Anyway, so did that in high school. Then when I got to Notre Dame, at football Saturdays, we had a group that would get out on the porch and sing folk songs. And I had backup banjo player, and I was still doing Kingston Trio stuff, and the crowds coming in for football Saturdays standing there listening to us, and I'm still hamming it up. In the second year, I said, I'm getting a single room. I'm not putting up with this. I need to study. I was in pre-med, and so I got a single room. And one Saturday, I was playing the guitar down in my room, and one of the Glee Club guys came by and said, you ought to try out for the Glee Club. And I said, aren't they all music majors? And he said, oh no, these guys can just, if you can carry a tune and stay on key, that's really the only qualification. So I went to and rehearsed to rehearsal and tried out, and the Glee Club director was just a virtuoso on the piano and organ, and he said, why don't you, he ran me up and down the scales, and he said, yeah, I think we'll take you. Why don't you sing with the second tenors?
Wow, okay.
And so, as you probably know, most men are baritones. Mm-hmm. And so baritones are a dime a dozen. But tenors are a commodity.
Yep.
And so since I was one of the tenors, I got to travel pretty early with the Glee Club. And there was only like 39 seats on the bus for the weekend trips and tours. So I was usually on there. I got the list for who's going came up every before each trip. And I made it most every time. And so Notre Dame didn't have any fraternities, but the Glee Club became my fraternity brothers, essentially. They were like my family. We used to rehearse every day of the week from 5 to 6, every day of the week. And so when I got to medical school, I didn't know what to do with myself between 5 and 6. And so I said, well, I think what I'll do is I'll start my own Glee Club. We'll meet from 5 to 6. So I put out these flyers. And so on the appointed day, 40 women showed up.
Wow.
No men.
Look at that.
So I said, well, there goes a men's Glee Club. So I directed this group. I had some music from my old Glee Club director, and I knew his sort of imitated, once again, stealing. I imitated his style of directing, and I directed the Medical College of Virginia Glee Club for 2 years. On year 3, I had to go on the wards with patients, so it only lasted for 2 years. But we sang show tunes, and we had a good time. Christmas concerts and Christmas songs, and so I was in love with choral music by that time. Then I had to interrupt my medical training to go in the Navy, because in those days that was the Vietnam era, and if you were a physician, you were going in. That's all there was to it.
Right.
You might get a job at the CDC or something like that, but most of the jobs were military for physicians, and so I joined the Navy. And when we got to, my brother was a naval aviator. He had gone to the Naval Academy, and he was in the flight program in Pensacola. So I called Washington, D.C., and I said, how do I get stationed in Pensacola where my brother is? They said, well, you can be a flight surgeon. I said, well, what's a flight surgeon? I was an internal medicine guy, and they said, well, you just take care of aviators and their dependents. And so I said, I can do that. So when I got down to Pensacola, I found out that I was going to also have to learn to fly an airplane. I didn't know that.
Lucky you.
Yeah. Anyway, but because they want the flight surgeons to know what aviators have to go through. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I did it. I even got to solo a Navy aircraft. I quit flying right after I soloed. I didn't want to, doctors have a bad record in aviation because they have this get-there-itis, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So, but anyway, as part of that, they had a choral group in Pensacola called the Naval Air Training Command Choir. And of course, I jumped on that. I joined that, and we flew all over the country singing the national anthem at NFL games. And I mean, it was, and of course, old hammy me with my guitar. I had some solo parts, and we even had a barbershop quartet number that we introduced, and we had fun doing that. Finally, when I arrived in Augusta to really start my life, I looked around for the local barbershop chorus. Sure enough, I found them, and when I got here, one of the basses who sang in that, he's now deceased, but he sang in that chorus, said, "How would you like to sing in a quartet?" I said, "I'd love to sing in a quartet." So for 15 years, I sang in a barbershop quartet. When I was a medical student, I took an elective in Galway, Ireland. And naturally, I took my guitar over there, and I lived there for 2 months as a medical student, essentially. And that really changed my life. We'd go to this pub where this guy was singing and playing Irish songs. And I got to, that last song we do, New South Wales, is the one he used to do all the time. So once again, I stole that. There's nothing original about me, Walter, at all.
You're
nothing
a
original.
stealing ham that you are. How have you seen, what's your take on Augusta and this region and the music you've seen here? What's your perspective?
Oh, I think Augusta's kind of understated. I think there's a lot of great musicians in this city, and I'm not sure, there are probably more musicians than there are venues for them to display their talents. Mm-hmm. But there's plenty of good music of all genres here in this town. And even at the Fox's Lair, I know that the other nights of the week when they're open, there's really quality music being played. And even their open mic, as I understand it, draws a crowd, which is now, I guess, Thursday.
What do you want people to know most about the Doc Fisher shows?
It was an outlet for them, that they had a time when they were refreshed themselves. They didn't have to think about the troubles that they might have, personal issues or study issues or whatever they're doing that is bothering them, that they had an outlet, and I was part of that outlet. I would think that, and there's a lot of feeling that I feel like I'm doing what the good Lord would want me to do, try to bring some joy into the life of my brothers and sisters on this planet. I'm very motivated by that. Yeah. I think most of my children, I've got 6 kids, by the way, and most of my children have heard me many times. And so they always say, "Dad, you did a good job." And I don't, they wouldn't hurt my feelings. They would never, if I didn't sing that well, I don't think they'd tell me. They've always been very supportive of me. My wife, Peggy, she has put up with my avocation of singing, and I think she's been just a gem about it. I came to the place where I was supposed to come. I think this is where the good Lord wanted me to be, and so I hope I've helped some patients that I will never meet, and it's anonymous giving. Those patients, if I've helped some of the students take care of those patients can never thank me. Mm-hmm. Is there a higher form of giving than anonymous giving? So I think for Augusta has been the right place for me to come. And as far as the Fox's Lair and the people, the former owners and the present owners have given me an outlet and supported me. I'm sure I've helped them bring people in, and I'm sure that helps their bottom line, and I'm happy about that. But they've given me an outlet to sing, and singing I think is healthy. It's good for you. Even if you can't carry a tune, I think people ought to sing.
I love that. Well, John, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Walter. Appreciate that. Devin,
Yeah.
thank you.
Too.
You may consider me a professional musician, but I've never considered myself more than an amateur. You know, I've been singing all my life. This isn't my only type of singing, but I'm just an amateur that has fun on Tuesday nights, really.
Okay.
When she